in the heart of a serene forest, where tall trees whispered secrets to the wind and stars sprinkled the night sky like glitter, there lived a timid firefly named Sparkle. Each evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the world bathed in the soft hues of twilight, Sparkle found herself gripped by a fear that seemed to grow stronger with every passing moment. Perched on a delicate leaf, Sparkle watched as her fellow fireflies danced gracefully around her, their luminous bodies casting a warm glow over the forest floor. But while her companions reveled in the beauty of the night, Sparkle couldn't shake the gnawing dread that gripped her heart whenever darkness descended. As the moon rose high overhead, casting long shadows across the forest floor, Sparkle's fear intensified. The once familiar sights and sounds of the night now seemed cloaked in an eerie stillness, sending shivers down her spine. "I wish I weren't so afraid," Sparkle murmured softly to herself, her tiny wings quivering with unease. "Why can't I be as brave as the other fireflies?" But no matter how hard she tried to quell her fear, Sparkle couldn't shake the feeling of dread that seemed to follow her wherever she went. And so, night after night, she found herself retreating deeper into the safety of her leafy perch, watching as the world outside grew darker and more forbidding. Yet despite her fear, Sparkle couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope deep within her heart. Perhaps, she thought, there was still a way to overcome her fears and embrace the beauty of the night. With this newfound determination burning bright within her, Sparkle vowed to seek out the wisdom of the forest's oldest and wisest inhabitant, the venerable wise owl. And so, as the stars winked mischievously overhead and the forest whispered tales of forgotten dreams, Sparkle set out on a journey that would change her life forever. Little did she know that the answers she sought lay just beyond the shadows, waiting to illuminate her path with the light of courage and resilience. As the moon cast its gentle glow over the forest, Sparkle found herself fluttering through the dense foliage, her tiny wings trembling with each beat. The darkness seemed to press in around her, whispering eerie tales of hidden dangers. Yet, despite her fear, Sparkle pressed on, determined to seek out the wise counsel of the forest's most revered creature, Wise Owl. Guided by the soft hoots echoing through the trees, Sparkle soon found herself standing before the ancient oak that served as Wise Owl's home. With a hesitant flutter, she approached the entrance, her heart pounding in her chest. "Who goes there?" a deep voice called from within the shadows of the tree. "It's me, Sparkle," she replied, her voice barely more than a whisper. The darkness parted, and Wise Owl emerged, his wise eyes gleaming in the moonlight. "Ah, young Sparkle," he said, his voice gentle yet commanding. "What brings you to my humble abode on this dark night?" Sparkle swallowed her fear and spoke, her voice trembling slightly. I seek your wisdom, Wise Owl. I am plagued by a fear that grips me each night, and I know not how to overcome it." Wise Owl regarded her for a moment, his gaze penetrating yet kind. "Fear is a powerful adversary, Sparkle," he said gravely, "but it is not insurmountable. Tell me, what is it that you fear?" It's the darkness," Sparkle confessed, her voice barely audible. "The unknown that lurks within it. I long to be brave, to shine brightly even in the darkest of nights, but I know not how." Wise Owl nodded sagely, his feathers ruffling in the gentle breeze. "Fear of the dark is a common affliction, my dear Sparkle," he said reassuringly. "But remember, darkness is simply the absence of light, and where there is light, there can be no darkness. Sparkle blinked in surprise, pondering Wise Owl's words. "But how can I shine brightly when I am so small and afraid?" she asked, her voice tinged with doubt. Wise Owl smiled, a twinkle in his wise eyes. "The light you seek lies not in your size, but in your heart, Sparkle," he said. "Believe in yourself, and you will find the courage to illuminate even the darkest of nights." With those words ringing in her ears, Sparkle thanked Wise Owl and bid him farewell, her heart filled with newfound hope. Though the darkness still loomed around her, she felt a glimmer of courage stirring within her soul. And with that courage, she knew she could face whatever lay ahead. Embarking on her journey into the depths of the forest, Sparkle felt a mix of trepidation and determination swirling within her. Each rustle of the leaves and every whisper of the wind seemed to amplify her fears, but she pressed on, guided by the memory of Wise Owl's reassuring words. As she flitted through the shadows, Sparkle's mind raced with thoughts of the unknown. What creatures lurked in the darkness? Would she ever find the strength to conquer her fear and shine brightly as she longed to? Suddenly, a pair of glowing eyes blinked in the distance, sending a shiver down Sparkle's spine. She froze, her tiny heart pounding in her chest. But as the figure drew nearer, she realized it was only a friendly squirrel gathering nuts for the winter. Relieved, Sparkle continued on her journey, her wings beating steadily against the cool night air. Along the way, she encountered all manner of nocturnal creatures, from chirping crickets to silent slithering snakes. Each encounter filled her with a mixture of fear and fascination, but with each passing moment, she felt her courage growing stronger. As the hours passed and the moon reached its zenith, Sparkle found herself standing on the edge of a vast clearing, bathed in the soft, silver light of the night sky. In that moment, she realized she had ventured farther into the forest than ever before, and though her heart still trembled with fear, she felt a sense of pride welling up inside her. Taking a deep breath, Sparkle summoned all of her courage and soared into the center of the clearing, her tiny body glowing with a newfound radiance. In that moment, she realized that she was no longer just a timid firefly, afraid of the dark. She was a beacon of light and hope in a world filled with shadows. With her fear conquered and her spirit ablaze, Sparkle continued to illuminate the night, spreading her light to every corner of the forest. And though the darkness still lingered on the edges of her world, she knew that as long as she had the courage to shine, it could never extinguish her inner light. As Sparkle basked in the glow of her newfound courage, a sudden movement caught her eye. Turning towards the source, she watched in horror as her own shadow danced across the forest floor, elongating and contorting in the shifting moonlight. Fear gripped her once again, her heart racing as the shadow seemed to take on a life of its own. She tried to flee, to escape the darkness that threatened to engulf her, but no matter how fast she flew, her shadow followed close behind. With each beat of her wings, the darkness seemed to grow stronger, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. Desperate for escape, Sparkle turned to flee, but as she did, she caught a glimpse of Wise Owl's wise eyes, watching from the shadows. "Face your fear, Sparkle," his voice echoed in her mind. "Only then can you truly conquer it." Taking a deep breath, Sparkle summoned her courage and turned to face her shadow head-on. For a moment, the darkness seemed to loom over her, threatening to swallow her whole. But then something miraculous happened. As Sparkle gazed into the depths of her own shadow, she saw not darkness, but light, a reflection of the brilliance that burned within her heart. With each passing moment, the darkness began to recede, replaced by the warm glow of her inner light. Tears of joy welled up in Sparkle's eyes as she realized that her fear was nothing more than an illusion, a shadow cast by her own doubts and insecurities. And just like that, the darkness that had once plagued her melted away, leaving only the pure radiance of her spirit shining brightly in the night. With her fear conquered and her light burning brighter than ever, Sparkle soared into the sky, her heart filled with a newfound sense of freedom and joy. And though the shadows may linger on the edges of her world, she knew that as long as she had the courage to face them, they could never extinguish the light that burned within her soul. With her fear of the dark conquered and her inner light shining brightly, Sparkle returned to the tranquil forest clearing where she had first sought Wise Owl's wisdom. As she descended gracefully from the night sky, the forest creatures gathered around, their eyes wide with wonder and admiration. "Look," whispered a young rabbit, pointing up at Sparkle's radiant form. "It's Sparkle. She's braver than ever." Sparkle beamed with pride as she landed softly on a nearby branch, her tiny wings aglow with the brilliance of her spirit. In that moment, she knew she had become more than just a timid firefly. She had become a symbol of courage and resilience for all the creatures of the forest. Wise Owl emerged from the shadows, his wise eyes gleaming with pride as he surveyed the scene before him. "Well done, Sparkle," he said, his voice filled with warmth and admiration. "You have faced your fear with courage and determination, and in doing so, you have become a beacon of light and hope for us all." Sparkle bowed her head humbly, her heart overflowing with gratitude. "Thank you, Wise Owl," she said softly. "I could not have done it without your wisdom and guidance." Wise Owl nodded saggily, his feathers rustling in the gentle breezy. "Remember, Sparkly," he said, "courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to face it head-on. And as long as you keep shining brightly, you will always light the way for others." With those words ringing in her ears, Sparkle spread her wings and took to the sky once more, her light illuminating the darkness with every graceful beat. And though the night may be filled with shadows and uncertainty, she knew that as long as she had the courage to shine, she would never be afraid again. As the forest creatures watched her soar into the night, their hearts filled with admiration and awe, they knew that they had witnessed something truly magical, the triumph of courage over fear, and the transformation of a timid firefly into a fearless beacon of light. And as they settled